Hi, everybody. I'm Howard Levy, and today I'm talking with the great conguero Joe or José Rendon. And Joe and I have been musical buddies for, oh my God, what, like 30 years? Almost.
Really? Wow.
We played together in this fantastic nine-piece Latin jazz fusion everything band called
Yeah.
Chévere, which we had to legally change to Chévere de Chicago when we put out our
Oh, okay. I
album
remember that.
because
Yeah.
there were several other bands called Chévere in different parts of the world. And
Yeah.
so we had been playing together for 5 or 6 years when I decided I wanted to do this duet project. I was touring with the Flecktones,
I
and it
remember.
was
Yeah.
the end of my first year of touring. And so I just called my favorite people that I thought duets would be would yield fruitful results. And Joe was one of them. And we didn't prepare for this at all.
No.
We
No.
just went to the studio, which was Sparrow Sound Design, and we just set up across from each other, no headphones or anything like that. And but before I get into the actual recording, I just think it would be really interesting for people to know how you started as a musician and how you started playing congas, which was later. You were originally a trumpet player, right?
Yeah, I was a trumpet player. Yeah. I started with some friends in high school, actually. And the thing was is that nobody knew anything about instruments. We all knew that we wanted to be musicians. I got connected with some friends that just were fascinated by music, and I didn't even my attention wasn't even in that area, and they kind of pulled my coat about it. And hey, what do you think you'd want to play? And I remember being a big fan of Ringo Starr, when
Hmm.
the Beatles came out. So I said, wow, I want to be a drummer. But then that got squashed because the folks were talking about, well, you're not going to bring all those drums in here with the sticks and make all that noise. So that was out. So I didn't even think about it until a few years later. And my friends, we started hanging out, and we were in a basement. And one of our friends had belonged to a concert band. So he came home with a bunch of instruments that his instructor said, hey, pick one of these instruments, take them home, pick one of them that you want to play. So he came home with a trumpet and a flute and a saxophone and drumsticks. So it was either one of those, and everybody else had grabbed everything except the trumpet. So I took the trumpet. I didn't even know how to play it. I said, how do I'm blowing into into the instrument and nothing. It's like, I didn't have any knowledge of embouchure or lip control or fingering or notes or anything. I'm like, this thing doesn't work. It's broken. It's like, oh, but just make sure you put it back in the case the way it was, because I'm gonna get in trouble.
But how far did you get on the trumpet? I mean, eventually.
I actually became a proficient trumpet player for about 10 years.
Huh.
I played mostly in the traditional norteño bands that they have,
Yeah.
from the Mexican culture, and cumbia bands, did that, so I did that for a while. And I used to switch from trumpet and congas because the conga player got sick in the band, and they had his conga drum set up. So when I wasn't playing, I put my trumpet on the stand and I, play rhythm, on congas. But that was after some friends had invited me to go see a Santana concert. I didn't know who Santana was. I was like, Santana who? And they were excited. So I had to pretend to be excited too. So I didn't, I wasn't singled out as the weirdo. And it's like, you don't know who Santana is? No. So I went, and it just, it completely poisoned my mind.
So when you joined Chevrolet, and I was music director, and I was writing all sorts of stuff in odd time meters, and I think that your diverse musical background made it easier for you. You seem to never have any problem playing in 7 and 5 and all these rhythms, and playing great solos over all these odd time meters. It was like the most natural thing in the world to you, and that's very unusual for a conguero, especially
Well,
20 or 30 years ago, to feel like relaxed doing all that stuff. you know.
Well, I'm so glad that I have everybody convinced, because at the time, I'd be holding my breath, going, "Okay, here we go." But a lot of that, to be honest with you, a lot of that was I had a lot of help from Ruben Alvarez, who actually introduced me to Chévere, and I owe a lot to Ruben because, he I guess he saw some potential in me or something. His enthusiasm was just so much that he said, "Hey, man, you got to come over here and sit in with this band." He's the first one that got me to solo by myself. I'm like, solo by myself? Why would I want to do that, man? Where's my accompaniment? Where's the band?
Interesting.
So Ruben, man, he guided me through the different time signatures, that you so wonderfully introduced to the band, Howard.
Well, so getting past the Chévere, I mean, past it, but so fast forwarding a little bit to 1990, I had been playing like tumbao bass lines with my left hand for a while, and improvising
which
with the right
which
hand.
was disgusting, I might add, in the wonderful musical sense.
Well, so I said, I want to do that, and like, can we like play a Guaguanco, and I'll just like come in with the with the Guaguanco pattern in my left hand first. I think that's what I did on that introduction in Guaguanco. I started playing doom 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 with my left hand, doom doom, because I learned a lot about this stuff from you and Ruben and those guys too, because I had been listening to Afro-Cuban music, salsa, whatever you want to call it, for years. But I only gradually learned what the real ingredients were. It's hard for somebody coming at it from the outside to really get into the inside of it. And and that's what I like so much about these duets, is that I feel that that we were like locked together and inside the music, and making it up as we went along, but it seemed to have a life of its own. And that introduction in Guaguanco is totally unedited. I mean, it was just this composition, and both of us were kind of hanging on to each other. We didn't know where it was going to go at all.
Yeah, and that's a very good description, because I was hanging out for my life. I was like, okay, I have absolutely no idea what this very talented gentleman wants, but I'm going to give him what I got. So it was a great experience for me, because you in a really great creative way, you forced me to dig real deep and push myself, and it's like, okay, and reach in there to all the people that I love percussively, and all the influences and the vocabulary. It had to all just work naturally, because I said, my thing was my whole thing was, I can't be stiff. I can't be stiff, and I can't sound like a robot. And, I had all this crazy stuff going on in my head,
Interesting.
So, yeah.
The other piece that I called Afro Moods, I said, I really like this groove. It's very simple, an Afro groove. I had probably first heard it on an Eddie Palmieri album or something like.
Oh, okay,
And I said something like that, and you said, no, it really goes like this, and you started playing it. And then I just came up spontaneously with the bass line and a counter melody, because for me, rhythms create melodies. Like,
absolutely,
if I hear a rhythm, I'll be inspired to make up a melody and then some sort of harmony. Like, it's a mysterious thing, and I don't understand it, but I know that it happens.
Yeah, and
so
you feel
it really happened with this Afro Moods thing. This one I'm particularly proud of, because it returns to the same theme at the end that I played in the beginning, which is really wild. I mean, the whole thing was really a composition. Instead of, hey, let's sit down and just make up some crazy stuff. It was compositional improvisation, and linked together by this common love of these Afro-Cuban rhythms.
Yeah.
And I'm just incredibly proud that we did this together, and we never did anything like that actually again either.
No.
Because all our playing after that was all in Chévere, which was a 90s band with pretty much set arrangements, although tons of soloing and everything. But it's just something that something very special happened that day. And
absolutely, man.
I only realized how special it was years later when I re-listened to it.
well, myself too. When I heard it again, I was like, it actually moved me because it was a particular place and time. Revisiting that, and I could almost feel the way I felt at that moment. And it's just, it was really, really cool. You like popped me into a time machine and whisked me back, and it was like, wow, okay. It was interesting to hear the emotion and the expression at that time, because things change, along the way in a person's playing, I think. So it was really, really cool. It was really cool. And I got to thank you, for being really adamant about preserving that. If you hadn't reminded me, I would have never remembered that.
I almost forgot about it, really. And these things sat around for years until I started listening to some cassettes that I found of them a few years ago. And then it turns out that Sparrow actually had the original digital files, which recorded on some archaic equipment. And he transferred them to digital, like to DVDs. And so I put it into a Pro Tools session. And that's how I was able to remaster it. Thank you so much for chatting with me about this today, and I'm very excited.
Absolutely, and thank you for reaching out, man, and sending me the recordings. It's really exciting, man, and thank you for this interview, Howard.